And we're going to try this again. Here we have our model that snapped, but we went ahead and gave it a wash, and then we switched over to a different one that we didn't break. And we went ahead and gave it an initial wash, trying to go as light as possible. And then after the wash, we went over with the Sharpie marker. So I still need to go and get a new gold, but it looks okay. Just almost a gold Sharpie dry brush, taking the edge of the Sharpie and just running it along the high parts of the model, and it turned out all right. We're going thin enough that we are still getting our artificial lighting from the black and white primer. As you can see on the cruiser that we're going to try to do next, the white primer is supposed to be our highlight, our light source. So he is lit mostly from the rear, hopefully, is the effect that we're looking for. And just going to give another just very thin red wash here to our flagship, which we've learned there's a lot of problems with this model. Mainly he's so spiky, he hurts to pick up. And there might be too many spires. There might be too many towers that makes getting into the sides of the buildings, the cathedral on top, a little too difficult. And here is that the awful pink I was worried about with the red wash, but I think with a wash of black, which we're going to hopefully do today, that will come down in tone and be kind of a much more muted red, which is what we want. And we're going to go into the details of all the angels, which are probably going to have gold wings, because that's what I see a lot in angel decorations is gold wings. We're going to go with that. And I was thinking at first white robes, but that's probably not going to happen. They might be dark green. Red for everything on top, and then everything red for everything that's vertical on top, and then hopefully a nice dark green on, I said vertical, I meant horizontal, on the sides. On the vertical surface is green, and red horizontal is the idea. And hopefully going thin enough that we got some of the lighting effect in still. But learned a lot of what not to do. And hopefully this guy our second void ship will turn out a little bit better. The first two, the one that got destroyed or broke, and are mostly tests. This one's a test too. He's a little too fragile for a tabletop, in my opinion. So probably going to do something very different for the bases, or just magnetize them. I'm not 100% sure yet what direction is going to be best to go there. So we give it a red wash, and this is we're just getting the deep areas, because when this is dry, we'll give him a dry brush to get the high areas that the wash doesn't really want to fill into. I'm probably going to go with a bone or some sort of rocky gray for the prow in front. And a dry brush of whatever the engine color will be all over in the back. The engine flare, which isn't modeled in, but either white or yellow might work well. But these cruisers, I think, are a little bit better of a model than the Battleship. So probably going to redo the Battleship. He feels awkwardly too wide. And I'll have these models on my itch page for anyone who wants to download them. Right now, I think it's just some Thunder Warriors and the Catch-Tan Steve model, which is kind of a joke model. He's a joke model, but he'll fit in nicely with your modern true scale guard or your there's a version of Steve for your second edition goofy scale looking Imperial Guard. All right, that's a little too pink. And I'm using Games Workshop primer, but the white feels a bit hydrophobic to me, that it just doesn't like to be painted on. There we go. And the lovely thing about painting outside is that everything's a lot quicker. So everything's drying very fast. And I'm going to go with the Sharpies. Bronze, gold, and silver for engines and things like that. The flagship was a bit just all too red on top, and I'm going to try and breaking that up a little bit. With the idea that the roofs, so red. And I'm ignoring the bottom. Doing the bottom on this guy. He's an inch off the table. No one will see it. So I'm not sure how worth it that is to do. And just like that, many washes, trying to avoid any puddling, because the puddling will give us this too intense bits, like right in here. It's a little shiny and smooth because it dried in a puddle. See a lot more of it in this one here. Why are we still painting on him? Because he's a ruined model. Maybe we'll make well, we have a few ruined models. Maybe we should put them all together with Sculpey and make a nice Space Hulk out of all of them. Just don't need to worry about him at all. And the plan is, after we get a little bit of color on the cruisers, we're going to go and do a wash of dark. Do a black wash. It's going to be a bit too much red in there. And for the first, this base coat, we could be a little loose and fast. As you can see, the wash wants to puddle right here, and the easiest thing to do is let your brush dry a little bit, and then it'll just soak that up. It'll soak up the excess. But we want to keep what little shading we've got going on there, and hopefully, I think it will have a nice effect. It has a nice effect when I do that technique on my guard. Where we are priming black and then just giving a spritz of white in the direction of our light source, which for spaceships is probably the local star, the engine flare from the back, maybe a little bit of planet shine, but the lighting in space is a bit nebulous. If you went realistic, everything would just be too dark to see. So I have to take some artistic license there. And after a moment, after a while, we can just spread the excess pigment around. Being careful not to pick up too much of the pollen that is all over the place here right now. And a little bit of another little bit of layer on this guy so that he does not come across as pink feeling. And I think I'm not going to use the white soon after I run out of this can. Might try to just maybe yellow, something else, or even a light gray. So I'm just not very happy with how the white is going. And we're not worried about any of these raised areas having the wash slide off, because the dry brushing that we do is going to take care of the high areas. We just want to make sure to give everything kind of an even-ish coat. And I like to usually work on 2 at a time. One thing I've noticed is that the Sharpies don't do a great job, or they do too good of a job covering what's underneath. So you lose all that fine shading. And just have to replicate it. He's puddling up a bit too much. I think that's because this one is more lit from the back. And these little spires and towers, they look fantastic, but they hurt. They're sharp and pointy, and just a little fragile. I haven't had too many of them bust off from handling, but this is a bit of a fragile model. But I expect he'll just look better and better as you get some gameplay weathering on him, just from being handled. We'll give him a bit of love and wear, and that'll make him much more 40K accurate. He won't be quite so clean. and hopefully going back in later and greening up all of the edges. Just use that dry brush with no moisture to take care of some of those pooling areas where we don't really want them, because they will get overpowering, and if it puddles, it will dry in such a way as to become way too reflective, and that's annoying. You can see on the edge here we have a low relief frieze of Space Marines. It's still a work in progress, that they don't really look like Space Marines at this scale at the moment. And I was very unhappy with how the flagship ended up on the bottom. So I'm thinking that minimal, very, very minimal painting on the bottom. I don't think anybody's going to look. All right. And like a dry brush, but it's a wash, but we just want to make sure that we're getting all those areas, and this is a very dense, spiky area that's all spires and pits. So we're letting the wash get inside those pits and cover them up. And that's not too bad. Next, we will give these guys an ink wash, or maybe just a black wash. In just a minute, we'll need to do the flagship while everyone else dries out a little bit. And just spreading around those puddled areas so that it's not too thick there. We can take our dry brush and just suck it into the what is the word? Suck up the excess wash back in, so that we can make sure that we're fairly evenly covered. And let's see, it's not too bad. A little bit of black, a small amount of water, and we just bring him in, and we would like about a 50% dark wash, I believe. That's what we're going to start with, and hopefully that we will see it's just going to magically look a lot better. And we will have to go by another layer of red on top, probably just the dry brush. And the black will hide a lot of our mistakes. And should bring out this whole cathedral area a lot more. So we can go ahead, let's just dose that up, get it well painted, and then we will spread it around as much as possible. While we have excess pigment that's puddling in some areas, we'll just pull from there instead of the paint palette. But I think that will look very good. And we don't care much about the bottom because we don't think anyone's going to look at it. And the way that this guy's constructed, it's not easy to see or get to the bottom. So just a hint that something's happening there. And as you can see, I've left many supports on, mainly because I just did auto support on the STL. It's a new printer for me. I'm still relearning. Never stop learning. You never know everything. And we're just trying to give everything an even push. We're going to avoid the engines because the engines are glowing hot is the idea. That is not too bad. He's going to need a lot of work because he's a big model. But there's a good chance that one of those cruisers, it will be dry enough for a wash, and I think we'll see a big improvement in its being able to read its 3D structure. The little guy is not quite ready for a wash. And even now, this might be best to wait, but unlike the red, we can just go ahead and cover the whole model. And you see that's already bringing out the detail, the 3D detail on this guy and his many spires. So we're just lapping him up, adding some dimension. Oh, yeah, he had some pulling. It wasn't quite dry right there on the bottom of the engine, but that's going to be okay because we're not going to look at it. We're not going to see it. Nobody will see it. Okay. Again, as an experiment, I'm just hoping that these guys, this low relief freeze, turns out okay. And he'll need dry brushing and maybe another red wash on the buildings that we'll do probably after adding in some green, because green and red, those are, in my opinion, very good colors for Dark Angel's void ships. And I don't use an airbrush. I want one. I had one as a kid. You just need an air compressor most of the time. I know they have canned airbrushes, but I have never tried that. I think you can get a similar effect with just a lot of patient dry brushing, but similar, not exactly the same. And there we go. and he's turned out a little bit better than I thought. But yes, you can see that the adding the wash really has helped bring out the details of all the windows and the spires that we have going on there. Watch out for the puddling, because it'll dry like that and give you a gemstone shine, which you don't want. Oh, forgot about this spire here on the back, totally. He is almost ready for a wash, and then a wash of black, and then going over with the Sharpie, then another wash, and then going over with the Sharpie again. I don't know how to do non-metal metallics or non-metallic metal. I think it's a gorgeous technique. I try to emulate something like that with the Sharpies, using silver, bronze, and gold. It has a nice effect. It kind of works. Going deep, deep, dark along the bottom here. And nothing broke today, so we're doing great. Well, we are about 3 minutes left. We've gone over 5 minutes than intended, but I think it's worth it. And thanks for your patience. And I think that we're gonna have a nice looking fleet when we're done, even though it's gonna be a very fragile fleet, unfortunately. Let's see, just start on him. Oh yeah, he's gonna look fantastic with his wash, which we've made too dark, but that's okay, because we're gonna bring out a lot of color. And we can always claim that it's the light. It's the light that made that so dark. And there we go. And thank you, and we'll be back tomorrow to give these guys a little bit more work, and appreciate your patience.